In this video, I'm going to cover cosine. So cosine is one of the fundamental trigonometric functions, and it is defined as the ratio of the adjacent side to the hypotenuse. Now, whenever we are using cosine, it applies to sine and every single other trigonometric function. We always need a triangle with a 90-degree angle. Now, cosine and sine as well are both defined from -1 to 1 included, because whenever we are dividing a side that's less than the other, because the hypotenuse will always be more, it will always be either 1 or less than 1. Now, I wrote down some values that are important for us. In the previous video, I already covered sine, and so I explained the values of sine, why, for example, for 0 degrees it gives us 0, for 1/2 30 degrees. And in this video I'm going to focus on cosine. Now, I have a little trick for you to memorize the values of cosine. So it is basically just taking the values you have for sine and just writing them the other way around. So the cosine in 0 degrees is going to be 1, cosine in 30 degrees is going to be the square root of 3 divided by 2, and you go on. Now, the way we found out these values is exactly the same as for sine. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have a circle, and that circle is called the unit circle. So the unit circle is basically a circle with a radius that's equal to 1. And what we're doing is that we take an angle, okay? Let's say I would like to know what is the cosine of 60 degrees, okay? So 60 degrees is gonna look something like this, okay? And we're gonna draw a triangle. Now, we have our triangle, and we just, to find out what cosine for that degree is, we're just going to apply the function. So it is the adjacent side divided by the hypotenuse. Now, the adjacent side for us is this one, and the hypotenuse is this one. Now, the thing is that the hypotenuse is actually equal to 1, because we are using the unit circle. So what we're doing is that we have this value right here. The whole value here is going to be equal to 1, right? And we are in this point right here. And so we are just dividing this size by this, and it's going to give us this value right here. And this value is going to be 1/2. Now, it goes for every single other of these points, and it is very precise, and you will be able to find out every single number like this. Now, the graph of cosine comes from the unit circle as well. And it works exactly the same way as we used it right here. So the way it works is that we have this circle, right? I'm going to draw it once again. So we have the unit circle, and we know that it is defined, cosine is defined from -1 to 1. At least the normal cosine, right? So we are just doing the normal, the fundamental, like typical cosine graph, okay? And so it's gonna look, something like, a function that starts at the top, because we are basically just, we know that for 0 degrees is going to give us 1, so we start at the top, and as we go on, we go down. And so the function looks like this. It is basically a function that, and that's the same for sine, has a 360 period, which means that it repeats itself every 360 degrees, and it goes to infinity. So it goes to the left side as well, to the right side. The thing is that it just repeats itself, so not only it's not very interesting to continue, but we don't have enough space for that. And The important points that we need to determine are the ones where it crosses the x-line, and it's going to cross the x-line in this point, so that's 90 degrees, 270, and it's going to reach the lowest point in right here, which is 180 degrees.